А теперь официальная часть.
And now the official part for the program plan of the International Space Station on March 21st, 2018. A launch is planned from the Baikonur Cosmodrome of the Soyuz vehicle with 55 increment crew. Today in our hall we have Prime and backup crew. Please allow me to introduce Prime crew members of Increment 5556, Oleg Artemyev, commander of the Soyuz vehicle, flight engineer of the ISS Increment 5556, Roscosmos cosmonaut Andrew Foisto, flight engineer of the Soyuz vehicle MS-08, and flight engineer of Increment 55 on the ISS, and commander of Increment 56, NASA astronaut, flight engineer of NASA astronaut. Backup crew members: Alexei Ovchinin, commander of the Soyuz vehicle, flight engineer of the ISS, Roscosmos cosmonaut. Nick Haig, flight engineer 1, the Soyuz vehicle and flight engineer of the ISS crew, NASA astronaut. Our press conference is also attended by the director of the GCTC, Vlasov Pavel Nikolaevich. I would like to ask him to tell us about the results of the government commission. Good afternoon. Yesterday, the examination training of the prime and backup crew members was completed. The completion was wrapped up by the examination simulation training on both the ISS and the Soyuz vehicles. They allowed the crew members to demonstrate their readiness to act in all situations and all required modes. The crew members received high grades. They satisfied the trust, and they have demonstrated high level of readiness and responsibility, and rather high level of qualification of all the instructors. So today, the commission that met to assess the readiness of the crew members for the pre-launch preparations at the Baikonur Cosmodrome, the Intergovernmental Commission that included Roscosmos government corporation, contractor companies, and biomedical agencies, and NASA administrators. The commission came to the conclusion that the prime and backup crew of the increment 55 and 56 long duration expedition to the ISS are ready, and the recommendation is for them to start pre-launch preparation. Thank you very much. That is good news. And now we're going to move to the question and answer part. Please introduce yourself and tell us who you're addressing the question to. Let us begin.
Отбор в отряд космонавтов набора 2017
The selection into the cosmonaut corps started in 2017 is still continuing. At present, we're accepting documents. The documentation has been received, and the documentation competition selected 420 candidates. We're selecting from that pool candidates who are going to be allowed to participate in the personal selection. So they're going to undergo required testing, both psychological and professional testing. At present, the final decision was made to accept into cosmonaut corps of 2 candidates. One more candidate is expecting the conclusion of the medical examination commission that it will convene in April. I apologize, didn't hear you. What about female candidates? Original female applicants, we had 87. 8 female candidates were accepted as the final stage candidates. Thank you very much for your congratulations. As the zero gravity indicator, we're going to have several items. We have 3 crew members. We're going to have small zero gravity indicator from each crew member. Astronaut Vostok is going to have the Czech cartoon character, the mole, if you ever watch those cartoons. It's a talisman, good luck charm from his wife. Rick is going to have a talisman. Our cosine is Hawaii. Hawaiian female doll is going to be, it's a small one. And myself, as my good luck charm, my 7-year-old loves soccer, and since we're hosting the Soccer Cup this year, we're going to have the small wolf. That is the symbol of the World Cup championship. And my little daughter, who was born recently, the town Snezhinsk, one of the most important for Russia in terms of safety and security. When President Putin was elected, first trip he made in his role as a president, he went to Snezhinsk. And also my friends asked to take along a small bear, the symbol of Russia. So we have such a collection. We don't have them along with us. We are not able to bring them along because of the medical biological constraints. Also, the designer general also needs to verify that we're able to use them on board. So these are our desired talismans. We'll see how it works out. Good afternoon, TASS News Agency. Congratulations to all crew members on your confirmation as crew members. In this crew, usually there are 3 backup crew members for 3 prime crew members. Why do you only have 2 backup crew members? What is the reason? And the second question to the prime crew members. Could you tell us about the science research program, what your main experiments are going to be?
Да, уважаемому бортинженеру,
To
дублирующего экипажа,
the
нелегкая работа, поскольку он
dear
должен был освоить
flight
обязанности
engineer
коллеги действий
of
в двух
the
лицах. Бортинженера номер один и бортинженера номер два.
backup crew member. He has a difficult task. He has to be trained as both flight engineer 1
Все с этим произошло так, как мы
and
ожидали,
flight
и оценки
engineer 2.
получены достаточно высокие.
And so,
Решение
in
о том,
the
что будет в составе дублирующего экипажа будет
grades received at the exams are quite high.
совместно с специалистами
The
НАСА
decision
и
was made together with the Roscosmos
не
specialists.
секрет, да, что подходы со временем, подходы к условиям
Wanted
использования
to
дублирующих экипажей, в том числе меняются.
tell you that with time, the approaches to backup crew member assignment change. Since there were some changes in the crew member assignments, both U.S. and Russian
Не полной замены экипажа, а замены
specialists decide not to swap the entire crew members,
естественно, командира корабля,
but we swap individual crew members. So one flight engineer is serving as backup to two flight engineer 1 and 2.
решение, повторяю, решение
So
было
a
принято
commander would be swapped for the backup crew member commanders.
бы мы ни говорили,
So I wanted to say that
в том числе идет. Два человека готовить в
we're
качестве дублирующих,
talking
понимая, что вероятность его использования
about training two crew members as backup crew to be
подготовки борта
involved
в одном лице была
as potential replacements in and the likelihood of that being very low.
защищена.
So in this case, we're protected and covered for any need. A question to the backup crew members. Was it difficult for you to cope with the such arrangement, such an assignment with just the two of you? A question for both
Считаю, что
commander and flight engineer. I think it was not difficult.
достаточно комфортно
We were
готовить.
rather comfortable during our training.
Показал очень хорошие знания, навыки, умения, и вы можете судить.
We have shown a quite high level of qualification and knowledge and skills. And you can see it for yourself. We think everything was done well and correctly, and our crew will be serving as backup to the prime crew members. We'll be helping them in everything. We're going to send them off at the designated time.
Для меня это... Я постараюсь.
For me,
Для меня это самый главный
for me,
возможность.
that was the main opportunity to work together.
Вместе хорошим.
We work well together, I believe.
Повезло.
And I consider myself fortunate to be working with Alexei
Опытным и спокойным.
because he is very calm and he is very experienced. Thank you. And to continue questions from Alexander about the science research component of your flight program. As a matter of fact, the main experiments, they're all main and they're all important. As far as deciding which one is a priority experiment, we have 54 experiments as they're written on the list. Yesterday I looked at them and there were 58 on the list. I wanted to single out the experiments that depended on the cargo vehicle that has recently docked. These are technological experiments, separation, and Icarus experiment. Separation experiment is focused on regenerating urine to obtain water from urine. That is important for the Russian segment, so we're able to obtain water from the waste liquids. Experiment Icarus is performed as part of the Uragan or hurricane experiment that has been ongoing for a long time, observing the Earth's soft surface, watching for catastrophic changes on the surface of our planet. As part of that experiment, Icarus experiment is performed as research for Russian and U.S. Scientists were watching bird migration. They put markers, the rings on the bird's paws. That's the way they used to do that. They had to catch them. Now they don't have to disturb the birds. We perform observation on board of the station. People are able to track the bird migration pathways. Why it's important? It's important for safety of airplane flights, airplane traffic, so that people are able to update airplane traffic. It is also important to be able to assess climate on Earth. Also, birds are sometimes part of spreading of infectious diseases, so we can track it. Experiments that are being added at the end. For example, we're going to grow seaweed in the incubator on board of the station. I cannot omit the experiment called TEST. It is the experiment that's focused on researching the biosphere of Earth. Thank you very much. Are you going to maintain blogs from the station? Well, it depends. You see, I'm doing work, so if I have the permission and assignment to do that, then I will do that. Because it's very important, I believe. It's part of educating people. If I have the time to do that, then yes. In order to maintain a blog, it does take a long time. It does take a lot of time. I wanted to ask, the EVA that is scheduled for August, what is going to be the task, what you're going to install? And I believe we're planning to launch MLM. I believe your predecessors were preparing the station for the MLM arrival. Are you going to continue that effort? And another question about the space that you're going to work during the EVA. Also, were you a participant in the tests, underwater tests of the new Orlan spacesuits, and what the difference is between the old Orlan and the new Orlan spacesuit? At present, the EVA is scheduled for August 8th of 2018. It's a very interesting EVA. I already mentioned the experiment Icarus. Equipment that was delivered on board of the Progress cargo vehicle will need to install a large antenna that will need to be unfolded. It's a fairly complex operation. All the training for that EVA has been completed. This experiment I was talking about to track bird migration. Part of the equipment is going to be installed outside of the station. Part of the equipment is going to be inside the station.
еще работа будет по запуску
There will be also part of the EVA to launch nanosatellites.
Летят две. И под вопросом еще
Also, another potential part of the EVA will be to launch a satellite from Samar University, SAMSAT.
есть такая задача. Ну, мы ее тоже отработали, но
We're also trained for
готовы к выходу.
another task of equipment is ready for launch on the next cargo vehicle.
Мы будем устанавливать перед выходом, вот,
Then prior
мы будем устанавливать аппаратуру для
to the EVA,
съемки
we're going to install equipment for
РТ. Вот, да, да, РТ-360.
RT360.
Оказались эти съемки.
It turned out that that particular video monitoring turned out to be very popular.
Предыдущих выходов были установлены на поверхности.
They installed equipment outside the station, cameras outside the station during the previous EVA, and we're planning to install those on the Strela cargo boom. It would be very interesting how the equipment is going to work during the space flight.
Если, дай бог, камеры заработают, не замерзнут.
We're hoping that the cameras are going to work. The video would be very interesting.
Аппаратуру, которая уже отслужила.
We're going to remove the обстановка environment science experiment equipment that has completed its operation cycle.
И мы будем забирать вот как раз эксперимент-тест, который
And we're going to also pick up the components of the test experiment that are being exposed on the outside surface of the station.
Так,
Okay, the spacesuit question.
сейчас по программе я буду выходить
Right now, I'm going to
в старом скафандре.
perform the EVA in the new spacesuit. Sergei Prokofiev is going to be performing the EVA in the old spacesuit. There's a potential that we'll deliver the new spacesuits for both, and we'll both be wearing new spacesuits. The new spacesuit is maybe a little bit more rigid because of the layers of material. The new materials are slightly different. However, it's not going to affect the operability and functionality of the spacesuit. Underwater, working underwater is more difficult than during an EVA because water, the resistance of water is quite considerable. You see, in the U.S. spacesuit, we can spend more time underwater. And the Hydro Lab would limit the training sessions to several hours because it is very difficult. It's physically difficult. Right now, we had an EVA that lasted about 8 hours. Anton Shkaplerov and Alexander Misurkin completed an 8-hour EVA, and I believe that was a hero act because it is very difficult. After 4 hours during an EVA, it's just sheer willpower. Thank you. Irina Zubarova, Roscosmos Television Studio. You are a test pilot. Is it difficult to pilot a plane, or is it more difficult to fly in space?
Сложнее всего стать космонавтом.
It's more difficult to become a cosmonaut. For me,
С бесконечным уважением отношусь и к этим двум профессиям.
I have deep respect for both of these professions. They're different, quite different. The requirements are the same.
Кроме того, что профессионально нужно быть
Along with being ready professionally, you have to be highly motivated and to perform a long duration training. From being selected as part of the cosmonaut corps to actually flying in space, you can complete 2 college degrees. You have to be very well prepared to accept new information. Your mind has to be open, particularly to be prepared for the future long duration and distant deep space exploration. So the selection criteria are very strict. Test pilot. If you see, if you're flying and testing a new plane from scratch, the prospect of actually flying it is actually closer. The prospect is higher. So in this case, you can catch your breath, and there's a relief in that. So you can change the environment a little bit. The cosmonaut profession of the cosmonaut, from my point of view, is unique because you have to be extremely motivated. I would hesitate to name another profession where you have to work for a long time, learning all the materials, all the information for long periods of time that you need to become a cosmonaut. Today, you're looking at the most distinguished representatives of the profession, and I believe I am very fortunate to be working with them. Because along with selecting them, I need to also be able to organize the work of the Cosmonaut Training Center to make sure we have a reliable program.
Анастасия Синицкая, газета «Известия».
Anastasia Sinitska, Izvestia newspaper. Could you tell us why the launch of the Soyuz vehicle was postponed from March 15th to March 21st? And prior to the election, can you tell us how Russian cosmonauts are going to vote in the presidential election? I'm going to vote in Zhukovsky town election committee. As far as the postponement of the launch date, Gagarin Training Center doesn't set the launch date, does not set the launch date. We can do all the required actions and operations to prepare for the launch. We were ready by the original launch date, and we're ready for the current launch date. I think the crew members should be glad to see that particular additional time frame, because I would say they have been really working really hard, preparing, and they got a little reprieve for training. As far as voting is concerned in the election, how are you preparing? Alexei Ovchinin and myself, quite recently, were at the My Documents facility, and we took the voting registration cards that will allow us to vote at the Baikonur Junior College. So we're going to vote at the Cosmonaut Hotel when they come to allow us to vote. I'm not going to miss that day. Mir television station. Question to Oleg Artemyev. Oleg, Sirius satellite. If you are able to launch that satellite, what is going to be the purpose of the satellite in space? And how many of ordinary everyday items are cosmonauts allowed to take with them when they fly to space? The purpose of the Sirius satellite. First, I believe it is a ham radio satellite, and I'm not familiar with the other tasks. I have not reviewed its description. We were only looking at the mock-up. Our task is to learn to launch the satellite. We're ready to launch it. And how to deliver it in orbit and what the purposes are, I think we'll find out. I think there is some information online. You might be able to look it up. As far as personal items and belongings are concerned, these are items that accompanied us through life, some memorable items, memories from towns where I was born, where I went to school, to college, then letters from my family and friends. They told me not to open prior to lunch. So there might be a letter that would tell us to open on a specific date, and it feels really good. Well, of course, there's always an email, but letters, they feel different. You read and you reread them. You see an email, you read it, and you close it. A paper letter, it's different. When you fly to space and then you give it as a gift to the person who wrote it to you. Then we ordered lockets for our spouses and our close friends and family in the United States around New Year's time. I gave my locket to my wife, and I'm not sure what my colleagues did. Then Alexander Ivanovich Lazutkin, a cosmonaut, he asked us to take a space museum into space. It's a big name for a small item. It's in the box, in a small box. There is a an artisan who made little models of space vehicles using little grains. It's a small item in the box. So if the medical specialists and our doctors allow us to fly it, we will. We have already talked about the zero gravity indicators. Thank you very much. What about our U.S. colleagues?
First of all, congratulations to you all on very successful qualification exams. My questions are for Drew and for Ricky. Both of you are experienced space flyers and spacewalkers with missions launching aboard NASA's space shuttle. Now you'll be flying aboard the Soyuz for a long-duration mission on the International Space Station. First for Ricky, can you tell us how training here at GCTC in Houston has prepared you for this mission and how you plan to share that experience during the year of education?
We've been working together a long time in space, so spaceflight training is kind of spaceflight training. I don't notice a whole lot of differences between how we train here and how we train back at NASA. I think we have learned a lot from each other by working together. So we're ready to go execute whatever's asked of us while we're on orbit. And you asked about the year of education. The International Space Station has been used for a long time as a wonderful platform for education. I'm looking at people in the audience who've done some wonderful things for education from the space station. So by a coincidence of the flight manifest, we happen to have two former school teachers back-to-back serving on the space station with Joe Akaba there. So our hope is to highlight, reinforce what a wonderful platform for education that the space station has been and will continue to be in the future, and also to shine a light on the people around the world who we trust with our most precious resource, our children. The teaching profession is demanding. We expect a lot. There's a lot of responsibility, and those people that are in the classrooms with our children deserve all the gratitude we can offer. Thank you.
Спасибо. Thank you. And for Drew, Drew, can you tell us how training here at GCTC in Houston has prepared you for this mission and what you look forward to as you eventually transition into the role of commander of the ISS during Expedition 56?
Over the past 22 months, I've spent 65% of my time here in Russia, away from home, and the training here has primarily been focused on the Soyuz launch and re-entry vehicle. That is the prime focus. The work that we do in preparation for activities on the space station is limited in the Russian segment, but as commander, I have a responsibility for the safety of the crew, the safety of the spacecraft, and the success of the mission. So those are the things I'm thinking about, and those aspects have been highlighted with my training here in Russia and in the U.S. And at this point, we are ready to fly. We're ready to launch on the Soyuz spacecraft, and we are ready to execute the mission on the ISS once I take over as commander.
Добрый день. Евгений Рыжков из журнала «Новости
Good afternoon. Evgeny Ryzhkov, Novosti Cosmonautiki magazine. Several questions. First question, you were born in Riga, and you graduated from high school in Leninsk. Was it due to the work your parents did for the military? Yes, you guessed it correctly. My father was in the military. He graduated from the Riga Military Academy. As soon as he graduated, I was born. So we left Riga for Leninsk. Leninsk 5. So I spent all my childhood there. So that is my hometown. And the second question.
Как я слышал, у вас при поступлении в отряд у вас были
As far as I heard,
со здоровьем.
you had some health problems when you were becoming a member of the Cosmic Corps.
Я совершенно случайно так получилось, что я поступал
I was applying
с большим числом людей, которые были
to the Cosmic Corps and going through the medical exams
в комиссии, и так получилось, что
with a large number of candidates.
я остался.
So they were
Прошел еще в 2000 году.
admitted, and I was not. I passed my medical exam back in 2000. I received their conclusion.
Наборы у нас проходили раз в 5 лет.
But since the cosmic candidates were admitted every 5 years, I was working at RSC Energia as an engineer. I was waiting for the next Cosmic Corps enrollment. So far, I have not experienced any health problems. Thank you. Well, since he's here as a commander of the prime crew, so currently he's not experiencing any health problems.
Хорошо, мы дадим третий вопрос нашим
Okay.
американским
Well,
коллегам, будем заканчивать.
I give a third question to our U.S. colleagues, and then we'll be wrapping up the conference.
Question for our backup crew member. This question is for Nick. Nick, how has it been for you training to be both FE1 and FE2 for this mission?
I feel fortunate to have the opportunity. It's been a lot of time here in Russia away from family, but it has been made much easier working with all the great people here at GCTC, and having a great commander as part of the crew has made things go very smoothly. So it's been wonderful, and feel very prepared to support the prime crew.
Можно вопрос? Чемпионат мира по футболу будет проходить. Будет ли экипаж?
May I ask a question about the World Soccer Cup? Will the crew members be watching? Then you have spent more than a year together, so you know each other very well. What can you tell about each other? What are the character traits you appreciate in each other more?
Будете ли болеть? Может быть, сыграете?
Are you going to cheer for a specific team? Maybe you will play. While we were watching the badminton cup and championship, we'll probably have our own championship. There was a World Cup, soccer cup in Germany, so we played a little bit at the time. So we'll continue this tradition, absolutely. On behalf about my colleagues, crew members, I would say they're some of the best representatives from their nations. I like them very much.
So we do plan to, I'm sure, spend some time watching sports on orbit. My interests are in watching the tennis tournaments this year that I can while I'm in space, and also to keep track of any racing events around the world, Formula One, MotoGP, Indy cars, and so that will be my focus during orbit. My free time is to follow these activities and try to spend some time together with the crew enjoying these things.
And I will be there during baseball season, so I'll be excited to follow that. But I know my Russian and German crewmates will be sure to drag the Americans to come down and watch some football as well.
Спасибо большое вот на этой замечательной...
Thank you very much. On this wonderful sports-related topic, we will be completing our press conference. Now our crew members are going to go to the Gagarin room for photographs, and then they will go to the Red Square. And after that, on March 4th, there will be crew departure for Baikonur. Thank you very much for wonderful questions, and we'll be looking forward to seeing the media representatives at Baikonur. Thank you and goodbye.
Нет.
Did you think what you're going to write? No. Prior to flying to Baikonur, all space crews come here. The tradition has existed since April 12, 1969. This is the book that contains the pre-launch entries from previous crew members. Would you like to read the very first entry, September 17th, on the birthday of Tsiolkovsky? Prior to leaving, to our departure for lunch, we visited
the working room of Gagarin. Мы бережно храним в своих сердцах любовь к Юрию
we
Гагарину,
carefully
жизнерадостному человеку.
bear the memory of Gagarin in our hearts.
Ну и, конечно, удачного вам старта.
And of course, have a successful lunch, and please remember
Ценят как специалиста.
that we appreciate you being an excellent specialist here on Earth.
Конечно. Тоже его не знаю.
Да. В гостях был у нас first man on the moon.
Часы подарил кому?
Нет.
А другой часы подарил?
So he gave you the clock? No, a different one.
Всегда рад гостям, и нам в том числе. Вот что-то.
He's always glad to see visitors, and we're glad to see you as well. I guess we're completed this. Thank you, dear crew members.
Да, и на первом этаже там.
On the first floor, Anton Mikhailovich saw that as well. Yes, I was running after the bus. That's fine. That's great.
Leva, your other left hand.
I have trouble with that in English too.
Пожалуйста, внимание.
Attention, please. One more time.
Еще одну секунду.
1 second.
Пожалуйста.
Why did you fall? It's slippery. Haven't you done that a million times?
Одну секунду.
1 second.
Сейчас, одну секунду.
Hold on 1 second.
Зато все радостные. Так, и... Так, семьи, пожалуйста.
Families, please.
Well, here we are, the crew of Expedition 5556, launching on Soyuz-FG in about a month, and we just finished our exams yesterday, and we're happy to be here. We did a great job. It's been 2 years of, well, almost 2 years of training for me, a year for Ricky. Oleg's been at this for a long time, and it's a cold day today, but we're here celebrating the work that we've done and our preparation for spaceflight, and we're ready to go.
And this is, we had many traditions when we used to launch humans from Kennedy Space Center, and today we got to experience some of the Russian traditions of spaceflight. We came and paid honor and respects to the pioneers of Russian spaceflight and walked around the Kremlin and saw some of the sights. It's been a really, really nice afternoon together with our crew, our backup crew, and the family.
So thanks for coming out today to enjoy this time with us, and we're really proud and happy to have Oleg as our commander on Soyuz, and we're looking forward to some great times on orbit for the next 5 months to continue the excellent work and cooperation that our nations have shared for almost 20 years now in space, or more than 20 years.
Longer than that.
Yep.
And looking forward to sitting by a fire in a little bit, too.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thanks.
I want to say our crew is the best.
All right. Hurrah.
Thanks for following along.